Ranger. Fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver. The Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger and Tonto, on their way to the town of Mesa Junction, began to look for a camping place for the night. The masked man and his Indian friend had heard reports that the town of Mesa Junction was in danger of being taken over by an unscrupulous gambler named Arnie Mason. The sheriff of Mesa Junction, Jess Harper, was an old friend of the Lone Rangers and the only man now standing between Mason and his evil schemes.
We need supplies, Tonto. You ride into Mesa Junction and I'll set up camp.
Me have talk with Sheriff Harper?
Yes, tell him we're in the area and that we're here to help him.
Me do.
Got a note here from one of your neighbors.
Yeah, what about?
I'm afraid it's bad news, young fella. Your wife's ailing.
What is it? What's wrong with her?
The letter don't say, son. Just says she's doing poorly and asking to see you.
Look, Sheriff, you've got to let me out of here. Let me go see Nancy. I'll come back. Word of honor, I will.
Now, Jeff, I can't do that. That'd be breaking the law. Besides, you're under arrest.
Oh, I'm only in here for disturbing the peace. It's not as if I committed a real crime.
I know, son, but I'm thinking about Arnie Mason and what he might say.
Now, look, Sheriff, I'm the only one in the jail now. I can sneak out the rear door and come back before anyone's the wiser.
Well, I suppose you could do that. You could take my horse and be back here before dark.
Sooner than that, Sheriff. I'll only need 2 hours.
All right. I'll take a chance. I wouldn't want to have it on my conscience if anything serious was wrong with Nancy.
I'm obliged to you, Sheriff. You'll never regret this. And don't worry, I'll be back.
I'm not worried about that, Jeff. You're no criminal. You'll find my horse tied out back there. Get there fast and give my love to Nancy.
Right.
Howdy, Sheriff.
What do you want, Mason?
Just paying a friendly visit. Well, looks like the bird has flown the gilded cage. What happened to your prisoner, Sheriff?
His wife's ailing. I let him out to visit her.
You let him out? That's a strange way to discharge your responsibilities.
I know what I'm doing. He'll be back.
You sure of that?
I wouldn't have let him go if I wasn't.
Well, I think you're wrong. I don't think you let him out at all. I think he broke out of jail.
What are you getting at?
I think he stole your keys, sneaked out of a cell, and then beat it after a big fight with you.
You're crazy, Mason, and I can prove it. I've got a letter here.
Sure you have a letter. But Jeff's neighbor didn't send it. I did.
You?
That's right. You've been standing in my way long enough, Harper. I figured it was time I got rid of you. Only I wanted to do it in the right way. Hot-headed young cowhand killed sheriff breaking out of jail. Simple, isn't it?
Wait, no!
Let's break up. Break up. He's dead. Jeff Hope's gone. Looks like a jailbreak.
You must have took the sheriff's horse. It's gone, too.
This is murder. We can't let him get away with it. Bert, you're coroner in this town, and under the laws of the territory, you're now acting sheriff. I suggest you form a posse.
You're right, Mason. We got to go after Jeff Hope right away. Come on, man. He can't have gotten very far.
It's not Jeff that's worrying me, Nancy. We can get him out of this scrape, all right. It's what's happening to Mesa County that has me riled up.
You mean Arnie Mason and what he's doing?
That's right. If things keep on as they're going now, well, this town will soon be unfit for decent people to live in.
What are we going to do about it?
I don't rightly know, Nancy. Mason has control of everything but the sheriff's office now. If he gets that, well, all of us might just as well move out of town.
I guess you're right. But I hate to think about it. Jeff and I have worked hard to build a home here for ourselves and the children.
Well, you have lots of company, Nancy.
Jeff!
Nancy, are you all right, honey?
Well, of course I'm all right, but what are you doing here?
Oh, one of our neighbors sent the sheriff a note. He said that you were ill. He let me out to come and see you.
Ill?
Oh, well, don't look at me. I don't know anything about it.
You mean you haven't been ill?
Well, I've been terribly upset, of course, about you, but that wouldn't explain the letter.
Well, I can't understand that.
Well, let's don't complain about it. At least it gives us a chance to see each other.
Still, you know, there's something strange about it. Who's that?
It's that polecat Mason. He's brought a gang with him.
Well, he'd better not find me here. It would cost Sheriff Harper his job. Look, I'll hide back there. You get rid of him as fast as you can.
What do you suppose Mason's doing here?
I don't know, but I don't like the looks of this.
Come in.
Sorry to intrude, Mrs. Hope, but we're looking for your husband.
What for?
The murder of Sheriff Harper.
What kind of a scheme and lie is this, Mason?
It happens to be a fact, Judge Wells. Young Hope killed the sheriff and broke out of jail. If you don't believe me, ask the coroner, who incidentally is now acting sheriff.
Also one of your puppets.
In the name of the law, I demand you turn this criminal over to me.
But he isn't here.
We know he's here, Mrs. Hope. We followed his trail.
And Sheriff Harper's horse is tied in the barn. Your husband's got to be here.
Come on, Sheriff. He's in here.
Why, he's ducked out the window.
We'll get him.
What am I going to do?
I'd better get back to town and find out what this is all about. I'll get in touch with you later. And try not to worry, my dear. I'm sure Jeff isn't guilty of this thing.
At their campsite, the Lone Ranger was setting things in order when his faithful Indian companion, Tonto, returned from Mesa Junction.
What's wrong, Tonto? You look as though you bring bad news.
Very bad news, Kemo Sabe. Sheriff Harper dead. People say him killed in jailbreak, but me not sure. Find this on floor of jail.
Well, looks like part of a letter.
Someone tried to burn it.
It apparently was written to Sheriff Harper. It says something about a woman being ill.
Me not know if letter important, but bring anyway.
You did the right thing, Tonto. This might be a very important clue. Wait. Who are you?
Well, I'm not one of your kind. I don't wear a mask.
A mask alone does not make a man an outlaw. You look as though you're in trouble.
I am. Plenty of trouble.
Why don't you tell us about it?
What good would that do?
It might do more good than you think.
All right, I'll sing for my supper. My name's Jeff Hope. I'm accused of murdering the sheriff of Mesa Junction, but I didn't do it. Someone sent the sheriff a forged note saying my wife was ill. He let me out to go see her. Then he was killed.
But your wife not ill?
She's as healthy as you are. It was all part of a plot to pin the murder on me.
Would you recognize the note if you saw it?
I think so. The sheriff gave me a look at it.
Is this part of it?
Yeah, that's it. Where'd you find it?
My Indian friend found it.
Well, let me have it. If I find out who wrote it, I'll know who killed the sheriff.
Suppose you let us handle this. Tonto, saddle up Silver. We're going to Mesa Junction. Jeff, you stay here. There's food in the packs. You'll be safe here for the time being.
I don't know why, mister, but I believe in you. Oh, one more thing. I'd like to tell my wife about that note.
It might be risky if you left camp.
Yeah, but Nancy must be terribly worried.
I realize that, but I hope you will remain here while Tonto and I investigate.
All right.
What we do now, Kemo Sabe?
Well, if young Jeff Hope is telling the truth, and I believe he is, that scrap of letter you found is the key to this whole business.
You think murderer write letter is part of plot?
Yes. If we can identify the handwriting on that letter, we'll know who did the killing.
Where we start, Kemo Sabe, there are many people in Mesa Junction.
Now, the one man who's certain to profit by Sheriff Harper's death is Mason. Let's start with him.
Where we get sample of handwriting compare with letter?
Well, Mason owns a lot of property in town. That means his name is on many legal documents. Let's get a hold of one.
That'd not be easy.
There's a Judge Wells living in Mesa Junction. I've heard he's a decent citizen who's fought against Mason. He may be able to help us. Let's pay him a visit.
Meanwhile, with Sheriff Harper out of the way, Arnie Mason and his gang have succeeded in taking over the town of Mesa Junction. A murder complaint has been issued against Jeff Hope, and the populace aroused against him.
I don't know how you managed it, Mason, but somehow you framed Jeff Hope.
I don't know what you're talking about, Judge.
Oh, yes, you do. I'm here to tell you you can't get away with it.
Oh, I'm sheriff of this county now, Judge. And I'm telling you that Jeff Hope is going to get a fair trial before he's hanged.
You'll have to catch him first.
We'll catch him. Don't worry.
Judge Wells?
Who are you?
Friends.
Friends? A man wearing a mask?
A mask isn't always the badge of an outlaw.
What do you want with me?
I want to talk to you about Jeff Hope and Arnie Mason.
Oh, so you work for Mason.
I work for Law and Order. I believe that Arnie Mason is responsible for Sheriff Harper's death. And with your help, I may be able to prove it.
Go on.
This is a portion of a letter that was sent to Sheriff Harper just before he was killed. It confirms Jeff Hope's story that he was released from jail to visit his sick wife. I want to compare the handwriting with a sample of Arnie Mason's.
Where did you get this?
My Indian friend found it.
On floor of sheriff's office, near body.
Then you've seen Jeff, heard his story?
Yes, Jeff is at my camp now outside town.
Well, we'll soon find out if Mason wrote this letter. I've had a lot of correspondence from him on business matters. Here's one of his letters. The handwriting looks the same to me.
It is the same.
I don't know who you are, mister, but Jeff Hope should be mighty grateful to you. This may be the means of saving his life.
Well, it will help, Judge. But it isn't conclusive evidence against Mason. I'm sure you realize that.
That's true. And since the sheriff is now one of Mason's men, I see no point in turning this evidence over to him.
Judge Wells, they've caught...
It's all right, Nancy. These men are friends. What did you start to say?
They've caught Jeff.
What?
Are you Mrs. Hope?
That's right.
Where did they catch your husband and how?
He came back to the house to see me. The sheriff's men were waiting and hiding.
I asked him to stay in camp.
He wanted to tell me something. Something about a letter and a man. Well, you must be the man who promised to help him.
I am. We'll have to move quickly now. Mason will lose no time in bringing your husband to trial.
And with Mason in control of the courts, the cards are stacked against Jeff.
We must force Mason out into the open. Make him show his hand. Judge, would you mind going back to our camp with Tonto? I'll meet you there in an hour. I'd suggest you take a friend with you, someone like yourself whom the people trust and will listen to.
What's your plan?
Trust me, Judge. I'll explain later. There isn't time now. Here, Tonto. Keep this. And now I'm going to pay Mr. Mason a little visit.
Are you sure he can be trusted?
You not worry, miss. Him good friend.
Hey, Sheriff. Got a cigarette? Well, ordinarily, I don't do favors for criminals, but seeing as how you haven't got long to live...
I wouldn't be too sure about that.
Oh?
The case against me may not be as airtight as you think.
Well, what makes you say that?
Well, you just send for my lawyer, Judge Wells. I've got a right to see him, you know.
Don't worry about your rights, Hope. You'll get them. The last rights.
You say anything more?
Yeah, he has to see his lawyer.
I don't understand it. He's much too calm for a man in his spot. I'd like to know the reason.
Maybe he's only bluffing, Chief.
Maybe, but I don't think so. There's something else behind this, something we don't know about.
Okay, mister. I got you covered. Drop your guns.
I haven't even reached for them yet. You Arnie Mason?
That's right. Who are you? And why the mask?
The mask is my own business, Mason. But I think I have something that will interest you.
What is it?
Tell your friend to put his gun away. It's a scrap of letter.
Letter?
A letter that was written to Sheriff Harper just before he was killed. Supposedly by one of Jeff Hope's neighbors. It was found in this office, partially burned. It indicates that Jeff Hope is telling the truth, and that he didn't try to make a jailbreak.
Do you, have this piece of paper with you?
I didn't think it would be very wise to carry it with me. After all, it was probably written by Sheriff Harper's murderer.
Now, look here. If you've got any evidence in a Harper case, you've got to turn it over to the sheriff's office.
All right, Sheriff. I'll turn it over tomorrow, publicly, so everyone in town can have a good look at the handwriting.
How do we know you didn't make up this whole story?
I thought you'd ask that. Perhaps this will answer your question.
Just what have you in mind, mister?
It seems as though that scrap of paper ought to be worth money. Say about $5,000. I'm camped outside of town, about a mile up from the bend on Willow Creek. Suppose you bring the money there in about an hour.
And if I don't?
In that case, I'll have to call on Jeff Hope's lawyer. He might be interested in what I have to sell.
What do you make of that guy, Chief?
I don't know. Yet.
Do you think he's really got the letter?
He has part of it, all right. And we've got to get it back. But what's bothering me is just how...
I want to see my husband.
No visitors allowed.
But I've a right to see him. You're not being fair.
I'm sheriff here now, and I make the rules.
Now, Sheriff, don't be too hard on the lady. Of course she has the right to see her husband if she wants to.
Jeff, are you all right?
Sure, honey. I told you not to worry.
I met the masked man, Jeff. He's promised to help. Oh, Jeff, I hope I didn't.
I think it's all right, honey, but keep your voice down.
I just had to tell you about it, Jeff. I'm sure everything's going to be all right now.
So the masked man is going to help him, eh? I thought there was something funny about that guy. I'm sure of it.
What's wrong, Chief?
Our masked friend is apparently trying to set a trap for us, Bert. But do you know what we're going to do?
Huh?
We're going to walk right into it.
Now, do you gentlemen understand the situation?
I'm still not clear on what you're after.
I want to get conclusive evidence that Mason was involved in Sheriff Harper's murder. Enough evidence to persuade you and the other decent citizens of Mesa Junction to act against him.
We'll do all we can to help you, mister.
Good.
That must be his camp up ahead. Got your part in this straight?
Yes, but do you think you're handling this right, Chief?
We must get that letter back, and this is the only way it can be done. Come on.
Two men come up trail now.
All right, Judge. You and Doc Fairbanks hide yourselves.
Right.
What me do, Kemo Sabe?
Stay here with me, Tonto, but let me do the talking.
Do you have the letter?
When I see your money, I'll show you the letter.
But do you have it with you?
Yes, I have it with me.
All right, Sheriff. Do your duty.
In the name of the law, I demand you turn that letter over to me.
But you agreed to pay for it. This is a double cross.
The sheriff of this county doesn't bargain with criminals. We agreed to meet you here in order to prevent you from turning it over to the wrong people.
And now, if you please, the letter.
All right. Here it is, inside this envelope.
Come out of there, whoever you are. We heard you.
Well, if it isn't Judge Wells and his friend Doc Fairbanks. Now, just what are you two doing here?
Point is, what are you doing here?
You must have heard what went on. I'm here with my friend the sheriff on official business. We heard this man had some evidence in the Harper case, valuable evidence. We came on out to get it. Is that right, Bert?
Sure, we're just here to do our duty by the taxpayers.
It's a good act, Mason, but I'd like to see what's in that envelope.
This? Why, that's the evidence, Judge. And I'd be only too happy to show to you. Now, isn't that a shame? Dropped it in the fire. Well, accidents will happen.
Accident, nothing. You destroyed that paper because it identified you with the murder of Sheriff Harper.
Yes, it did, Judge. It was the only real evidence you had. But now it's gone. And you ought to know better than anyone that you can't try a man for a crime without evidence. Well, I'm afraid your little trap didn't work, mister.
Oh, yes, it did, Mason. Because I've just found out enough to convince me that you and your gang are responsible for Sheriff Harper's death.
You seem to forget, Doctor, that your evidence has gone up in flames.
Wrong again, Mason. I thought you'd try some sort of trick. So the envelope I gave you, the one that you burned, was empty. The real letter is in Judge Wells' safe.
Meanwhile, Mason, you said just enough to betray yourself.
All right, Tonto, let's tie them up and take them into town.
Jeff, I told you everything was going to be all right.
Jeff, Doc Fairbanks has agreed to take over the sheriff's office until we've cleaned out the rest of Mason's men. And in view of what has happened, he's agreed also to suspend your sentence.
And we'd better start thinking about who run for sheriff.
Seems to me the man with the mask would be the best sheriff Mesa Junction could get. What happened to him?
Yes, and who is he anyway?
Haven't you figured that out yet? He's the Lone Ranger.